Good afternoon, Kick Ass Couples Nation. It is high noon. That means it is time for another KCN, Kick Ass Couples Nation Nooner. I'm glad that you have decided to join us today, and we are hanging out, and we are going to dive into a pretty fun topic. We're going to talk about today, is your relationship healthy? How do you know if your relationship is healthy? And what can you do to make it more healthy if you're not feeling like it's firing on all eight cylinders right now? My name is Matthew Hoffman. I am the CIO, the Chief Inspiration Officer at Kick-Ass Couples Nation. And we love to pull up alongside you and give you great content, ask questions, and help you learn how to prioritize your number one human relationship. So, how do we know if our relationship is healthy? You know, your car has a check engine light. Your thermostat says, hey, buddy, it's time to change the filter. My coffee maker even tells me I've got to descale it if I want it to keep giving me that glorious caffeine enriched coffee every morning when I start my day. So, what about our number one human relationship? What are the signs or the indicators of a healthy relationship? How do we know we're killing it and doing what we should do to show up and make sure that we're prioritizing our spouse or our partner? The first key point I want to talk to you about today is the difference between proactive and reactive behavior. This is going to be one of the biggest indicators whether your relationship is healthy or unhealthy based on how much proactive behavior you're demonstrating versus the reactive behavior that's creeping in. So, what are you seeing more of? Proactive or reactive? A great question to answer for yourself. Proactive behavior includes planned date nights and connection times on a regular or weekly basis. Now, a lot of people say, oh, we make sure we have frequent date nights. Well, what is frequent? Are you planning them? Are they happening at least once a week, if not every other week? And who is taking the lead in planning those intentional times for you to be together? Right? It's not just sitting together with the TV on, Netflix and chilling, binge watching your favorite show, but are you having times to connect, to communicate, and deepen those bonds? And are you taking turns? It's not up to just one of you, whether it's you or, in my case, my wife and I, we take turns planning those date nights and connections. And let me tell you, it is really nice to show up and have somebody else do the planning. So, is that a shared responsibility in your relationship? And are you planning and calendaring? It's nice to get an invite and look forward to a date night with my wife. I send her an email invite, it goes to her calendar. Sometimes it's a surprise, and sometimes I tell her what we're doing. The second proactive behavior that you can think about in your own number one relationship are intentional times to communicate. Are you taking little times, meaning a text, a voice memo, a post it? My wife will write me messages sometimes with lipstick on the mirror. And I love it when she does that because it's a way for us to connect. And you got to be proactive in the little ways. The big ways, are you setting time aside when you can sit down and have couch time? Are you sitting on the front porch swing, in the rockers, in the couch together, and able to interact and have those deep conversations about things that are relevant and important for you to connect on? Are there times for just the two of you to get away and connect? This is something I really strive to do with my wife on a quarterly basis. That means 4 times a year, I'm trying to plan an overnight or a couple of nights away where just my wife and I can connect. We have 2 dogs. We still have our third and youngest child still at home. So having the connection time at home doesn't mean it's always fresh. It's enjoyable, it's invigorating. And if you're at home, even though you might not be working, you still have all those other things on your mind that you're thinking about. Work to do, honeydews, projects, the phone rings, somebody knocks on the door. And in our case, we're caring for 2 large dogs, which are fed twice a day, walked a couple times a day. And it's really difficult to connect with your spouse when you have the obligations of those domestic duties on the top of your head. So it doesn't have to be expensive. It might be a hotel, might be staying with a friend, a VRBO. It could be camping if that's your gig. But quarterly, taking the time for the two of you to get away and connect without the cares of work, domestic responsibilities, kids, dogs, and other things that are going to distract you. Another way to be proactive is intellectually developing together. Intellectual intimacy is one of the most important intimacies. When I say that, it means, are you learning together? Are you doing something new? Are you taking an online course? Are you watching a video? Are you listening to a podcast, reading a book, taking a cooking class, whatever it might be, where the two of you together can intellectually learn something and have fun doing it in the process. That's another great way to connect with your partner. Giving your partner their own time and friend time. Even though we are in a relationship and we love to relate, I happen to have my office in my home. And so I'm working here. My wife has her office in our house as well. So when you're working and playing together in the same space all the time, it's difficult because you can't always get away from your partner and have either alone time to recharge and do something that you want to do. But I work really hard to make sure that my wife has her friend time. This could be lifelong friends that she grew up with, a sorority that she's a member from the Florida Keys, or it might be the friends that we have in our community, in our neighborhood, having a lunch date with a girlfriend, going out and shopping, or doing something fun with her friends that have nothing to do with me. So being proactive about establishing the alone time for your partner, your spouse, so they get to be on their own and so that they get to be with their friends and nurture and develop those other life-giving relationships. A third way or a fourth way to be proactive in your relationship is learning how to better prioritize their needs over yours. Man, it is easy, and I fall victim to this myself, to think about, what do I need? What am I doing for myself? What gift am I giving myself? When you're in a relationship, when you're in a marriage, learning how to effectively put your partner's needs before yourself is critical if you want to continue to pump the oxygen and the blood into the relationship that you've got. It's not about my needs, but it's about prioritizing their needs first. Now, hear me when I say this. This doesn't mean being trampled on or not having anything for yourself, but it means taking self out of your first response, making sure that your first response is based on your partner's needs right then and there. So, those are a few ways that you can be proactive in developing the health and the strength of your relationship. So, let's think about reactive behavior. What does it look like when you're not making it, when you're not hitting it? The first way is when you respond out of emotion without pausing and reflect. I did a post this week. Some of you may have seen it if you follow us at Kick-Ass Couples Nation or you follow any of our profiles, is learning how to live in the pause, right? Things happen, you're having a discussion, maybe it's getting a little heated, maybe you feel passionate about the topic and you respond or say something without thinking, right? A negative comment, sarcasm, or something demeaning or demoralizing, or pulling one of the triggers or stamping on one of those landmines that really make your partner react is not good. But once you've done it, what do? You got to learn how to live in the pause. That means between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space lies our freedom to choose. So biting your tongue and saying, is what I'm about to say or do going to build my partner up, make them stronger, give them more life and strength and embolden them? Or is it going to diminish, detract, or minimize them? And then choosing to respond based on your best interest for your partner. The second reactive behavior that is not healthy in a relationship is blaming. accusing and pointing that finger. And I love to always say when you're pointing the accusatory finger at your partner, there's always three fingers coming right back at you. When we have a problem with somebody or something, it's usually because we have a problem with that ourselves. So when we're raw or emotionally charged about an issue in our relationship, it means that it is important to us. It's raw for us or it's meaningful for us. So it's good to examine that and understanding why we want to blame. And is it an indicator that we've really just got to deal with something in our own relationship? Third thing, a reactive behavior is assuming the bad intentions in our spouse or creating a negative narrative. When our partner or our spouse does something or doesn't do something, and we make an assumption why they did it, we're creating our own narrative, right? Instead of asking, why did you do that? Or why was it important for you to do that? Or do you think that was the best thing to do right now? Instead of asking and getting their response, we assume. And when we assume, we make an ass out of ourselves because we assign motive that may not be there. And that's a dangerous reactive behavior that we really want to make sure that we are not doing. So, cutting down on the assumptions, speaking our needs, and really communicating so there's no question about why we're doing something or why our partner might be doing something. Having a selfish heart instead of a giving heart is another reactive behavior. When we have a mentality that there isn't enough, it's a mentality of lack, that there's not enough to go around. It means that we're holding on to the good that we seem to have because we're concerned we're going to run out. It is really hard to pour from a cup that you think is not full. But when we don't have a scarcity mentality and we have an abundance mentality, it means that we're not being reactive, but we are freely giving without the expectation of getting something back. Another reactive behavior is failing to prioritize our partner's needs over our own, right? That means we said this a little bit earlier when we're responding that there's not enough to go around. But when you are not prioritizing your partner's needs, it means you're saying there's something more important than them. And if you're in a committed relationship or if you're in a marriage, your partner is your number one human relationship. And they need to know that you prioritize them above anyone else. That means kids, it means your family of origin, right? Your parents, it means siblings, and it means that they know that they're more important to you than anything else. The second key point I want to talk about today is taking delight in your partner's growth and success. Are you your partner's number one cheerleader and fan? How would they know? Do you verbalize your pride in them personally and publicly? That means to their face, letting them know in no uncertain terms that they matter more to you and you have pride in them because of who they are and what they do. Not what they do for you, not because they're serving your needs and meeting your needs, but because you're recognizing the unique qualities that they are expressing and you are magnifying them to them. When was the last time you told your partner how important they are to you? This is something that should happen at least on a daily basis, if not multiple times a day. So the next time you come across that you're in their presence, look at them and verbalize and say, you know what I love about you most? You know what I appreciate about you most? And it's important to do it individually with them, one on one. But you want to talk about a huge bang for your buck when you're with family, their family, or friends, making sure that you're telling them why you love them. You know what I love about her so much? You know what I appreciate about her so much? You know why she's so important to me? Oh, I can't wait to tell you about what she did the other day and how proud I am of her. Tooting your spouse's horn, your partner's horn in front of them and in front of family and friends. Reminding them of the growth you see in them with specifics. I'm so proud of you because I've seen you do this. I told my wife just the other day, I said, you know, something I really am grateful for about you is how you've grown in the way that you're not irritated about things that I do that you may not agree with. She has done such a wonderful job of not getting her dander up and getting angry about things that are unique to me, but allowing me express and be myself. And I told her that. And she's grown in not letting it get under her skin because it's who I am. So reminding them of the growth that you see in them with specifics and what how important it is to you. Bragging to their family and friends about how good they are. This is recognizing their growth, but also just magnifying them about the good things that they're doing. Not because they've grown in a certain way, but what you love about them. Do you know why I love them so much? Do you know why they're so important to me? And making sure that you're bragging about them in front of them, not in front of them, when you're around them, even when you're not around them. In fact, that's one of the most important times is when you're not with them, are you thinking about them? When they know that, oh my gosh, one of their friends or family members says, I was talking to him the other day and he couldn't shut up talking about you. Having them hear that secondhand is going to do so much to build their confidence, their faith, and really contribute to the connection and the health of your relationship. In all the public speaking that I do and the relationship coaching that I do, I have never had anybody tell me that they feel they receive too much praise and appreciation for who they are and what they do. So you really, as long as it's genuine and authentic, you really can't praise your partner too much. And I've never heard someone say, stop it. You talk about me too much. You praise me too much. So see how you can work on that. The key point three that I'd really like to talk about today is where are your levels of intimacy in all the possible areas? So, if you are going to have a healthy relationship, you're going to have healthy levels of intimacy in each one of the following areas I'm about to share with you. The first is spiritual intimacy. Spiritual intimacy means that you are learning and growing in faith together. And if you're learning and growing in faith together, that means you are working on and developing your spiritual intimacy. A way that you could grow your spiritual intimacy is to pray together, to study together. It could be scripture or another religious book. It could be going to religious services together and making sure that you're growing in your faith and developing your moral code. So that's how you can have more growth in your spiritual intimacy. Intellectual intimacy is huge. And a way you grow in your intellectual intimacy is take a course together, read a book together, take a master class together, watch something instructional together. So, what are you doing to get more intellectual growth? That means learning and growing together. It could be even a cooking class, which is fun, but you're learning how to do something together, which means intellectually you're growing and how you relate to something in the same way. The next way to grow in intimacy with your partner is to think about big talk and small talk. Because when you have small talk, it's the death of intimacy. Are you talking about the weather? Are you talking about how good a bite of food is? Are you talking about how funny something is? If there's only small talk in your relationship, you're not building intimacy. You know, I always like to say, go big or go home. Are you having big talk? Are you talking about meaty issues, about how something affected you emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and asking your partner how they feel about those issues? How do they respond to those? So, small talk versus big talk. When's the last time? And I don't mean knock down, drag out, I mean deep issues that you feel emotional about, right? That you have strong feelings about. It could be even political discussions. Getting big and sharing your feelings is a great way to strengthen the bond, but it means you're opening yourself up, you're being emotionally available and raw, and asking for the same thing to come back from them as well. Physical, non sexual intimacy. Physical intimacy is not just sex. We'll get to that one in a moment, but are you developing your physical non sexual intimacy? That could include holding hands, snuggling, putting your arm around them, massaging them, hugging, kissing. And I want to talk to you guys a minute about the 7-second kiss. If you're not intentional about your kissing, there's a problem in your intimacy. The next time you have a kiss, I want you to try it for 7 seconds. Let it be tender. Don't be hard and forceful and physical, but hold that kiss for 7 seconds and watch how it affects you and watch how it affects your partner. You might laugh the first time because it feels awkwardly long, but hold it, enjoy it, lean into it for 7 seconds and see how that physical touch affects the intimacy you've got physically with your partner. So try all those different ways that are physical and non-sexual and see if you can enjoy them. Then that comes to the final kind of intimacy that a lot of people think about first, especially men, is sexual intimacy. Sexual intimacy does not just mean intercourse, it might, but there are other things that you can do physically for you and your partner. And in the sexual intimacy, it also means that, again, I said this earlier, prioritizing your partner's needs first, not getting in there and getting what you want and making sure that you're satisfied, but is your partner needs being met first? And that includes your sexual intimacy. And also, sometimes it means that when you have sexual intimacy, maybe sometimes, and this needs to happen, I make sure I prioritize this, just my partner's needs are being met and not mine at all. Sometimes it's okay for it to be just about your partner and not about you. Not all the time. My wife gives me that gift, and I give my wife that gift, where sometimes the physical sexual intimacy is just about them. It's nice to have that release, to feel relaxed, and sometimes to just enjoy that. So I want to share a story with you now to kind of illustrate some of these points that we've been talking about, how you know if your relationship is healthy. I want to tell you that we are all sculptors working at different forms. We've all got that big block of granite and we're taking our hammer and we're chiseling. Sometimes big pieces fall off and the image looks really different, more refined. And sometimes we're just working on the little things, trying to strive to make it more healthy. So we all have a lot of summits and mountaintops in our relationship. Sometimes we're working really hard and we feel we reach a summit. We celebrate the success, something that we've done that is strengthening our relationship. And then we look and say, all right, how are we going to keep climbing? And the truth of the matter is, whether this is business or your personal life, there are no straight lines in life. It seems like, yes, the shortest distance between two dots is a straight line, but our relationship is like this. There's ups, there's downs, there's peaks, there's valleys, and sometimes we're in that dark valley and we think like we're never going to get out. But really, we've got to keep looking to the next point and climbing the mountain. Now, the time it takes for us to reach that next summit depends on how much baggage we're carrying. Have we let go of stuff from the past in our relationship? Things that didn't work, times when we screwed up, times when our partner screwed up? That's just baggage. And if you want to ascend and reach that next summit, you got to be willing to let it go. So, my wife and I have been learning how to play pickleball in these last 2 years. We've joined the ranks of all Americans, not just old folks that like to play pickleball. And I play a little bit more than my wife. And I would say that maybe I'm a little more comfortable and better because I'm just out there more. I don't really care how I do. And we were with a good friend and his wife. He's a quite accomplished. He's also a terrific teacher. And he was teaching my wife and me some skills and working with his wife. And wow, her progress in just a little short time, an hour and a half together on the court was huge. And later we were talking about that. And she said, you'd be a much better teacher if you're more like this friend. And I thought, oh man, I felt like first I took it personally. It's kind of a stab in my heart. But she talked about his patience, his willingness to work with her, to encourage her. And so I learned a big lesson about how to be a better teacher with my spouse, that I'm not out there for me, but I'm out there for her and to try to help her make it better. That was a great learning opportunity for me about how I could work on being there for my wife and have a healthier way of teaching than being in it for me. And that was her perception, and her perception is her reality, right? Sometimes we disagree, but she has a right to her own viewpoint, and she expressed it to me. And it was a great way for me to learn how I could be a better teacher and show up for my wife to coach and encourage her, as opposed to losing my patience or playing for myself instead of for her getting better. So there's a great opportunity, and we all have lots of opportunities to get better. And it's nice when we recognize, but sometimes we don't know what to do. If you're there thinking, man, I'm not sure what to do to have a healthier relationship, I don't know what the next step should be, then I want to encourage you to come on over to MatthewPHoffman.com, check out Kick Ass Couples Nation, and sign up for your free relationship assessment. I would love to talk to any of you about what you can do to take the next step to reaching your own relationship nirvana. Go to MatthewPHoffman.com, sign up for your free relationship assessment call, and you and I will have a private, confidential, one-on-one relationship call. If you want to bring your partner, your spouse, I'd be happy to talk to the two of you, because I am here. I am a mission driven messenger. I want to pull up alongside you and learn what I can do to help you leave those obstacles behind that are keeping you from living in your own relationship nirvana. So if you want to learn more, you can listen to the Kick Ass Couples podcast. We're on all major platforms. My wife and I get to co-host that together. We're about to celebrate our 100th episode. We've been doing this almost 2 years, and every week we bring you lessons from the masters in relationship, or we do deep dives on relationship. This week, we're going to be talking about what you can do to have the right balance between healthy parenting and a great relationship. We have two therapists on with us. And we'll be talking to them and learning from them about what we can do to have that delicate balance to make sure we're prioritizing our partner and not our kids every time we have the opportunity. If you have any questions, if you're joining us today, throw a question in the chat. I would love to answer your questions. If you don't want to do it in the form right here, you can send an email to info@kickasscouplesnation.com, and we will get back to you and answer your questions. That's why we're here. My goal is to help, and I want to do it however I can. I'd love to hear from you, would love to talk to you. Drop us a line, give us a comment. And if you think this session was helpful with somebody, with something, please share it with your friends. Would love to hear any questions that you may have about how do I know if my relationship is healthy, or what can I do to make my relationship more healthy. We appreciate you tuning in with us today, and we hope that you will come back and join us again on our KCN Nooners. We are here every Tuesday at noon for 30 minutes for our KCN Nooners. So we hope you'll come back and join us and let us know what we can do to help you live in your own relationship nirvana. Thanks for joining us today. Remember, everybody, happily ever after does not just happen, it is definitely on purpose. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you out there.